stage lift accidents, prop malfunctions, crazed gunmen, and unfortunately timed heart attacks. Tonight we take a look at a few of the hundreds of notable cases of people dying mid-performance. Grim. Oh, and also the history of Cheetos. Join us, won't we?
Intended for mature, open-minded audiences only. If you are easily offended, we suggest you turn this wacky shit straight off.
How do?
Oh, God, it's been a fucking roller coaster on my end. How about you, man? I mean, not any fucking less than you, I'm sure.
Well, yeah, I'm just kind of digging my life out. It's from tubs and bins, and, moving radar station was a lot like moving a house. Only I didn't have an empty house to move it into.
Dude, it was nuts watching that.
Yeah. Well, I'm starting to get things.
Is it all done now?
Together.
I mean, are you completely out?
I'm completely out.
How do you feel, man?
I'm glad to be out. It's weird, and it's weird to see, they're posting pictures of, they're just painting like all the walls, like white, white on white, and it's just opening it back up. And it's all that coziness that I work so hard to get. It's gone, so it's a totally different space.
Weird.
But I feel good being out of it. Once it's like a bad marriage, once it goes south, it's time to get out of it. The clock of life, she's ticking, and we all shouldn't be burning so much time being unhappy. And I think we're all
not at all.
Pretty unhappy in that situation in the last month. And I had hard talks with just about everybody involved, and I'm tired of all that. I'm ready to just move on and figure out what's next.
Fuck out.
Hey, if it's any consolation, I can share my street corner with you.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind sharing. I don't need it every Thursday night, but
right.
Get your double Dutch rudders
right.
on 11th and Pacific.
Introducing Mr.
Between
Ron
the
Evans.
two of us, we're 22 inches. 17 and
Carry the one.
And I do mean carry it. How's things going your way, Chris? You got some, I don't know if you're comfortable talking about it, but you've got some issues?
Yeah, my life's been weird. I've had some family drama over Christmas. Who doesn't, I guess. But just been having some tough times with my mom, and I think she came out finally to spend a couple of days with me, and just kind of trying to get things straight and figuring out what's going on, and it is what it is. It's one of those things.
Yeah, so, she's trying to figure out if you're straight, is what you mean.
Well, she knows. She knows that's a big if. She's listened to this podcast, guys.
She's calling you Christopher F. Hart now as well.
Yeah.
Has she listened to the podcast?
Fuck no. My mom can barely text.
Make me uncomfortable. Speaking of which, and any of this could be cut out, of course, if you don't want it in. But you've been seeing somebody, not super serious and not for a super long time, but am I right in thinking that she has yet to hear the podcast?
I don't think she has. So, I mean, anyone that has been listening to this podcast for a long time, knows that I had a baby with my best friend, and we decided to co-parent from the same house, and we've been doing that for 2 years. Yeah. I mean, we sleep in separate bedrooms. There's nothing romantic there. We have a very good friendship, and we just kind of put dating for both of us on the back burner, and we were going to just kind of, wait until we both felt ready. And I ended up meeting this person, and we had really good chemistry, which is kind of abnormal for me. My friends call me my own biggest cock block because I tend to shut things down pretty early. Yeah. So I met this girl, and I've been trying, Yeah, so I'm sure you have many. I finally told Bridget, I was like, I met someone and I think I want to date. And so we worked out a bunch of great house rules and just kind of trying to figure it out. And her and I have only been out maybe 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, it's not a relationship per se, but it's something. But this is new, and
it's exciting for sure. It's the first time in a long time. I'm like, fuck, this is fun.
Yeah, it can be unfun.
I don't want to divulge too much about her, but she's a therapist, and that's been really interesting and sometimes challenging with her level of communication. And sometimes she'll come to me and be like, "What did you mean when you said this?" 2 days ago in a random text. I'm like, "Oh shit."
Like, do you think that has anything to do with your father? Or... Well, that could come in handy, right? I mean, I think being with a therapist or anybody that has therapeutic tendencies, Sarah, a lot of people tell her that she should be a therapist, and I agree. She has something. She has that thing where she's just like it really is all about being a good listener and a good communicator. But it's even more powerful if you can care about the conversations that you're having instead of just trying to pull from your own experiences and throwing it out there. But the only reason I bring it up is because I think it's a big hurdle to get someone. I mean, not necessarily, but I feel like it could go south as soon as she hears. It just depends on which episode and what mood Christopher was in. Because it's not going to be what we said. It's going to be what you said, what story you brought. But that's pretty much my biggest. We're kind of getting to the point where I'm like, well, I think it's time. Here's the way I look at it, though. It's a two-way test. If she's not down with you being you with your buddies on this stupid podcast, then it'd be a bummer. She went away, and you're enjoying that where it's going. But it's a two-way test. I never look at relationships or interviews for a job terribly differently. It's like a two-way street. You're there to see if you're going to be a good fit, and so I think it's a good test. But it is a test.
Have you ever used the podcast as a elevation and try to hook up with a chick?
I've used it to get rid of a girl.
It's like how to lose a girl in 10 episodes. Just fucking hit play.
I mean, we've been doing this for so long. I don't even think of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think
I don't know.
And we do it. I don't brag about it. I don't. Hey, you should listen to this podcast. Because that doesn't even. I think we've been doing it for so long that I don't even.
I rarely plug the podcast that way. I mean, if the conversation of podcasts come up and I'm in a group out and about, I'll always find a way to work in. Yeah, I've been doing one. Check it out. But it rarely just kind of comes up like that. Like all the girls I ever dated, they find the podcast. Someone playing video games back there? Would you give that little mutesy doots?
Just gearing up for my quiz.
Gearing up for your quiz, yeah. But it's happened sort of that way where if someone was interested in me and they listened to the podcast, like I said, I learn a lot about them or at least about our compatibility based on how they feel on the podcast. And most of them, I can't remember very many instances at all where someone was like, yeah, it wasn't for me. Because I wouldn't, and I don't think any of us would really pursue anyone that wouldn't get it. Why would we? How far is this going to go? But
I think it's a weird elevation when you get to the part of people from where our standard is. We're just having fun. We're just talking. We're friends. It's one of those things we meet all the time.
That's why it's dangerous.
The podcast. Well, people that listen to the podcast, they kind of adopt it. They almost feel like they're part of it. After they listen to it for so long. And I've had one girl actually approached me saying that she listened to the podcast and was she had that swoony eye, afterwards.
Swoony eye. She's like, I want that cripple.
Yeah.
That cripple dick.
I heard your
That sounds a lot worse than when you say it.
Well, I mean, I was just whatever. I didn't really think about it too much, but it's a real thing, and it comes on you see it a lot with streaming, with people that stream. They always have these fans. And it's usually the ones that are just forking out their fucking their paychecks to streamers, $1,000 freaking
trying to buy love.
It's stuff.
Well, we get that when we're at convention, when people know we're going to be in a place and come find us. But outside of those situations, I will say, a couple days before I was fully moved out of Radar, I was moving a freezer, a refrigerator for a friend, and she brought a couple people to help haul it away, and a friend of theirs, I believe her name was Julie, was walking by, and she came in and was talking to the friend. She heard me talking on the other side of the wall, and she's like, Oh,
Heard
my
your
God, I listened to that guy's podcast. Like, she recognized it. That's happened a few times. Not very often. But I guess she didn't know the connection between me and Radar Station and, you know, the podcast and all that. But she knew as soon as she heard me talking on the other side of that wall that she listens to the podcast. I don't know. I don't think she'd heard any of the How Bizarre. She, you know, stopped at the last episode of Tales from the Space Ball, but she was telling me about episodes that she remembered and was like, oh, wow, you listen to the show. She totally recognized me by the voice. That's happened, but outside of that, everyone that I've ever dated on any level, most of them found out about the podcast afterward. And it was always like I never gave a shit, so it's like whatever. Like, is this going to be a deal breaker? What deal is going to be broken here? I don't care.
Well, I mean, really, is it going to give you a leg up or is it going to give you a leg down?
Well, that's
two
the thing.
legs
Like,
open.
just like Ron said, like,
So?
I mean, like, I try to tell people when I introduce them to this podcast, if it's somebody that I'm really concerned about, you know, and this is the truth. There is a certain level of a persona that we amplify when we do this. Like, podcast Christopher isn't exactly 100% like day-to-day Christopher. You know what I mean? Like, right. I'm putting a bit of showmanship into what we do, and you know, I'm trying to get the laughs. So it's a very extreme part of my personality that I only really let come out here. Yeah. You know. And I'm sure that's fair to all of us on some level, but I don't know. Mm-hmm. So I try to say that. I'm like, listen, you know, this is a show. This is the entertainment we're putting out for people, and you know, you're gonna get a very different side of me than you might get day to day.
I actually
downplay when I'm hanging out with you guys.
Angle.
Yeah,
play it down. Yeah, we are sort of cartoonish versions of ourselves, but that's what you are when you're hanging out with your friends anyway.
Exactly.
You know, it's like you're just like trying to make each other laugh, and it's like, well, that was fun. Then I'm gonna go back to, you know, sitting on the subway or whatever whatever we don't do. Like a very normal someone else's life thing to do. Anywho, but that's where we're at with that. So yeah, it's a good time to start over. You know, new year. That was an insane month though. Moving out of Radar had to happen basically in December. So the entire month of December was fucking moving, and of course every single thing in Radar Station was like 50 pounds minimum. That was a heavy shit. You know, it was really like moving a couple houses because we had like 4 refrigerators and 1 giant freezer and like 5 couches. Most people only have to move a couple.
I'm really help. Is that what it helped?
Well, you know, I kept meaning to. Well, I did. I mean, people definitely helped me, but it was this weird thing where I was just in there for like 10 hours a day, just dismantling everything, like taking down the stage and taking down the bar and pulling it all apart. And I kind of needed to do that by myself. Not that I was all weepy and emotional. It was just, I don't know, I needed to. And a lot of the work, just like moving, a lot of the work is sifting through things, sorting through things. And it's like, I didn't really know, you know, everyone would just be like, do I keep this? Do I throw it away? What do I do with this? I just didn't want to deal with that all day. So I just wanted to sit in there and just do what I needed to get done. And then once I had everything organized, I called all the people to come help me haul shit away. So I did have help with all of that. But that's the easy part. Really, hauling shit is the easy part. It took weeks to get to the point where I was hauling stuff. So, but I'm glad to be out of there and just see what's coming next. It's a less stressful life, even though I'm technically unemployed. Not even technically, I'm just unemployed. Less stress.
Are you eligible for unemployment?
I don't think so because I wasn't paying into any kind of system. There may be some program, like a pity program, like if they look at my numbers, there may be some sort of assistance. But I don't plan on being stuck like this for long. Of course, a lot of people say that, but I've got a few things cooking, and it's just
you might be able to claim from your hours from when you were working at the World. They go back like 3 years.
They don't count part-time work. I wasn't eligible for unemployment after I left the World. Because I'd only worked part-time in the last 3 years.
Huh, that's weird.
I've never been eligible for it. When I got laid off initially from the Natural World, there was something or another that kept me from being able to get it. Either you live with someone that makes too much money, or you know someone that makes too much money, or you make too much money by $9, and so you're screwed. It's always worked out that way. But it's probably for the best because I know myself, and I would probably just... If I had something steady coming in for doing nothing, I'd probably use that time to do nothing. I mean, not nothing, but nothing that would make money, not chasing down the next thing. So I've learned about myself that I always need to be a little hungry. So yeah, I'll meet you down on that corner tomorrow night, Lyle, and we'll see what we can do. Maybe split the profs.
You could start selling merch, and that might help a little bit.
It seems like I've heard that conversation before. We should do that. We should make T-shirts, etc.
Hey, we've never been closer than we are right now, though.
We have designs, and I've seen
proofs.
I've seen proofs of those designs on digital versions of T-shirts.
One's actually up for sale right now.
Cuts. Do we? Where can people get one?
No, I gotta fix that art before we start selling those.
No. Yeah, see,
I'm
we're
just
very
saying,
close.
it's there. If someone were to find it somehow, it could be purchased.
No,
It's
don't
there.
do it.
Real
It's
bizarre
there.
merchandise coming sometime early
Do not buy.
2023.
It would make you
Not
special.
approved.
It would be making you super special to have the unofficial merch.
I guess it could be like the misprint that I never wanted.
Yeah, what's wrong with it? Oh, it's the alignment. You weren't happy with the centering.
It's just not right. I put a lot of work into those. I gotta have it. I gotta have it look right.
Yeah,
It's the $1 million shirt.
Oh yeah.
yeah. Get your reject shirt now, son. That'll be worth
If
just
you can find
15 cents more.
find it, you can buy it. Just saying.
Good luck.
Good luck.
Well, tonight, before we get on to my soup day shower, which is only going to be, I thought I would break it up a little bit because I want to talk about people who have died on stage. And I'll tell you why I got going down this road. But I have had a couple of people tell me recently that some of the shows have been pretty bleak and pretty dark. And I think being dark has always been, dark and troubling and disturbing, at least from time to time, has always been a part of our complete balanced breakfast, if you will. But it is nice to mix it up every now and again. So I'm going to be chasing away some of those stories with factoids about some of our favorite snack foods. That's what I got in store tonight. But before that, do any of y'all have any news stories you want to share?
I had a little something for you guys here. It's a story you might have seen. Yeah, a little something. A story you might have seen, and it caught my attention. Antique roadshow expert about a year and a half ago. This story just recently started floating around, but about a year and a half ago, somebody brought a 160-year-old bottle of liquid. They thought it was maybe a really old red wine or a port or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I hear some chuckles because they know where this is going. They brought that in to see what it was. And so the expert carefully, put a syringe into the cork and extracted maybe like a shot glass full of liquid and drank it. And was like, man, it tastes kind of rusty. Yeah, because they felt just a small amount just to see what it tasted like. And so he drank it and said, it's kind of rusty. It tastes a little wonky. And so then they had it tested. And it turns out it was a 180-year-old bottle of urine, rusty nails, and human hair.
Oh, God.
Oh, not my favorite Soundgarden album.
Yeah.
That's like
yeah, uh-huh.
right?
Wow.
I guess it was something that was used in witchcraft or something to that effect. Yeah.
Oh, witches. What do they call those? Witches. A witch's bottle? Is it that simple? Something like that. A witch's kit.
Yeah.
I've read about that. But, yeah, he did it the wrong way.
I agree.
You
100%.
test first, then drink, right? I appreciate his adventurous spirit, but is he well? Does he have issues from drinking? What would be the issues from drinking? How old was this thing?
180 years.
180 years old. You got to imagine, I guess most of the bad stuff would be.
I have no idea. I have no idea how that works.
What a maniac.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Urine is kind of like, I guess it's
a sterile thing, right? But
like
I don't know.
Years, maybe.
Yeah. Pretty gross, man. There's a little like 2-minute clip. There's a little 2-minute clip of the guy. He's really old, and she's telling him what he drank. He's like, well, I thought it tasted a little weird. Like, yeah, no shit.
That's funny. He didn't vomit profusely and jump off the cliff. Like, can you imagine being the dude or whoever's pissing in that bottle 180 years ago thinking, say, you don't suppose somewhere in the future some dipshit's going to drink this thinking it's a wine or something, do you? Well. Off you go. So what was in it? Pea, nails?
Pea nails and human hair.
Oh, my God, and he drank that.
He drank a little bit of
I
it.
wonder which flavor prevailed. I guess it
He
sounds like
said
the rusty
rust.
nails.
Yeah, and it looked like a brownish, reddish liquid when it came out. So they really thought they had some fancy port.
Yeah, out of the 3 notes, I think I'd prefer rusty nails. Like, it's got a hint of ancient urine. Let's see.
Can't put my finger on this, but
Possibly brunette and definitely rusty nails. I'm guessing a 3-penny head yeah, good Lord. I'm liking him more and more, though, especially if that was his reaction to finding out what he drank. Well, that's got to be a more famous bottle than it would have been if it was just some old
wine.
bottle of pork.
I mean, it's no fucking 15-year-old bottle of Cooks I have floating around my house from Ronster. But
I think about that from time to time. Well,
I had a crazy dash cam video. This guy was driving around in California, just cruising around a cliffside, checking out the ocean and stuff. And in his dash cam, he catches an SUV that turns off in front of him and goes off this giant cliff, right into the water edge, the
shit.
rock edge. The thing about this story is, though, you see the video proof. It's right there in front of
Oh,
you.
it's like a natural
it's like
jump.
like a fucking Thelma and Louise or some shit. Like, see ya.
Jesus Christ. Although you don't, are they dead?
It startled basically 3 rescue crews, and
that's a real cliff.
3 of them, out of everyone, they couldn't find the car. The car has disappeared.
What?
Oh,
car,
no shit.
That's not good.
They can't find it in the cliff edge. They can't find
Really launches off that cliff. Like, it has lift as it exits.
The first comment on this video is looking at your phone and missing the turn has to suck.
Oh my
A
God.
joke maybe, but what else could it? I mean, a heart attack or just a suicide or? God, let me play it again. Listen to hear the audio.
Jesus. Yeah,
People in
play
the
it.
car. It's pretty quiet to hear, but holy shit, I mean, it's just, you don't see anything after the car goes over that edge, but it's like, imagine you're driving right on the ocean is to your right. Is this Highway 101? Just the Pacific Coast? Looks like 101.
SR1, yeah, Coastal Highway.
So you're driving like rounding a corner, you're kind of veering to the left, and right in front of you, a car in the oncoming lane crosses into your lane, goes over and up onto nature's ramp into the abyss. Well, it's hard to say where that cliff goes, but if you scroll back, there's a little
like
snippet
water
there where you can see that it's a drop off. There's no bench there for that thing to have landed on. Those bitches are in the ocean.
Yeah, it's a 75-foot drop right over the cliff into rocks below.
Jesus.
Yeah, they say they found a little bit of debris, but nothing that would intact of what that SUV looked like. You know what I mean? Like, you would see it. You know what I mean? If it didn't, explode. But, what you see in the movies compared to what is real life, if that SUV went off, you're going to find that SUV down there, And they couldn't find it.
When did this happen?
In rocks. I'm not entirely sure.
This video was posted just like 2 days ago. What's funny about the video is that all it says is California car plunges off cliff. It doesn't say anything about it not being found.
Yeah, it's part of the article that I'm reading.
Jesus. Well, Godspeed out there if you're floating about. But
on a lighter note, there was a man in England that had his house burned down on Christmas. It's like bah humbug. You're going to burn down a house. Mm-hmm. Happened to be his pissed off fucking turtle. He had a turtle that was 45 years old.
I'm old. Fuck Christmas.
And it knocked over his heater in his bedding, into his bedding, and caught the place on fire.
That's Jesus the lighter Christ. Story, eh?
A little bit. Yeah.
Did the turtle die?
No, he was rescued. So
he's going to do it again. Firebugs are one of the hardest to rehabilitate. Right after pedophiles. I think we just have to start killing them. Even if they're turtles that are 1 year older than I am. I go back and forth on the old animal thing because we all love our pets. And we want them to live forever. But do we? Like, I know that it seems like all the animals that live forever are kind of like weirdo animals, right? Like, I'm not saying you can't love your turtle. I'm just saying you're a weirdo if you love your turtle. I mean, come on. A turtle is no cat, right? We can all, or dog. And then there's parrots that can live to be like 80 or some shit. Why can't the animals that we all love? Suicide, only enter. Yeah, why can't cats? But again, do we want our cats to live to be 75?
Yes. The answer is yes.
I think so.
Actually,
too,
no. You know, Bridget's got a cat that's like fucking 16 years old, and I can't let the Roomba run anymore. He just fucking bats at anything that goes near him.
I guess if they age well, though. I mean, if the turtle is a ripe 45.
What the fuck? A ripe 45-year-old turtle.
Well,
Ready,
turtles can
ripe for
live
two,
to be like 100+ years old.
That's what I'm saying. Like, he's a spring chicken. And it got a long ways to go. Now, what we think of as being a 75-year-old cat surely disturbs. But if it was a normal aging process, like it was, we no longer did dog and cat years. Like, you know, a 40-year-old cat would be as healthy and active as a 40-year-old human. As opposed to, it's like they start tapping out around 9 or 10, maybe 12, 13. And then they just plateau for another 40 years. Yeah, and that's not what I'm talking about. But it feels weird. It feels like I don't know, there's a lot more responsibility there. Mm-hmm. You know that most spiders, if you don't smash them, can live between 3 and 7 years?
I think it's so endearing that whenever we talk about spiders, you use the word smash. You're like, it's not like I killed a spider. It's like I smashed a spider. If you don't smash the spider, for years you've used that expression when we're talking about spiders.
Well, I mean, what else?
But I don't kill them. I love spiders.
What else do you do to them? Like, that's how you do it.
If you're gonna kill them, you smash them. Yeah, you do smash them.
Smash them.
But I only smash black widows now, unless something catches me by surprise on my nape.
Yeah. Smash down.
It's Smash Down all the way. My favorite 90s ska band.
My favorite Saturday night exercise.
Taking you to Smash Down. I'm going to smash you like a nape-crawling spider.
Look at me. I go out on a couple of dates, and I'm talking about Smash Town again, guys. Look at that.
He's back. By the way, I don't know why this popped in my head, but someone said the word magnum earlier, or big dick or something, and it made me think magnum for big dick. Oh, we were talking about the crippler. Magnum for big dick. We all know what normal condoms are, but it made me think there's got to be a perfect name. Like, I feel like Magnum's a pretty good name for a bigger dick condom.
Are you talking about like the snugger ones they need?
What would be a good name for maybe your less endowed gents out there? My only thought was Wilbur's. Yeah. I'll have a pack of Wilbur's. But there's got to be a perfect one. Well, what's the anti-Magnum? Like, Magnum feels like rock and stone and like power,
caliber,
you know?
It's
what?
It's a caliber.
Oh, is it?
Caliber. Yeah.
Okay, well, let's go the opposite. What's a smaller caliber?
I don't know, like
22s. We might have found it. Yeah.
A pew-pew.
22s.
Baby BB.
Anyway. Anybody else got some news before we get on to my...
How about that World War III then?
Yeah, a lot of World War III talk. I honestly don't think, and I'm serious when I say this, I just don't see World War III ever happening. Not the way that not the way that we had World War I and World War II. And think about how times have changed since the last World War. World War II ended in the mid-1940s. It's a completely different world on so many levels. And, we have Netflix, and that's not a joke. As I mentioned, we were talking about this via text a couple days ago. It's like Netflix could keep us out of World War III, not because the people are the ones that ultimately decide, but it's such a different, things were so compartmentalized, and there were only a few streams of media. There were only, to travel was a big deal back then. Travel is so much cheaper and easier now, but even for people who don't travel, we have the net. We can keep tabs on the world in ways that we never could before. And I don't know. It's not a tangible thing that I can explain in some eloquent essay-esque conglomerative of words. It's just a feeling, a gut feeling that the same way that I guess warfare in general is nothing like how it used to be. We don't really drop troops down into the belly of the beast by the millions like we once did. There's still troops on the ground and guns being pointed at heads and hand-to-hand and gun-to-gun combat, but not like it used to be. It's just, I don't know. I don't know what, maybe World War III is just a new thing. That's where the idea of a world war, or maybe the idea of war in general, evolves into something else, I guess it has anyway. But I don't know. I think this is just more of the same. The fucking Middle East. It always goes back to the Middle East.
Well, you're right. I mean, in the sense of like, there's not really. I wouldn't say it's not like a whole like a parade of fucking the word I'm looking for is patriotism. You're not going to find a bunch of people just like fucking out there to put their head on a fucking chopping block to be killed. You know what I mean? You didn't
like it was not even like it was in 9/11.
Right.
There was a mass sign up for the military. It was like, sign me up. I'm going to go fight. Mm-hmm. I don't think that would happen now, even if we had a massive terror attack that was bigger than 9/11. I think you'd have an uptick, but I don't think it would be like it was in 2001. I think even now we are so much more jaded. We're compartmentalized in a different way. Now we have broken off into so many different sub-political categories where it's no longer, and it's been this way for a while, it's no longer the right versus the left. It's subcategories within each one of those demographics, and from the extremes to all the way to the moderates. And I don't know, I just feel like we have the capability of finding out so many more pieces of information, and that's so important. And of course it's important, because World War II was the mother of all propaganda wars. I mean, when we think of classic propaganda, that's World War II. That entire war was fed and fueled and sustained by bold lying posters of propaganda and things that were dropped on the field. It's harder to do that now. It's a lot harder for propaganda. We're all, I don't care how you fall on the political spectrum or how jaded you are. We are all jaded compared to what those people were, right? Like, those people had every reason to believe that this is the greatest country on earth and this is God's country. It was founded on the principle, whatever we've told people over the past few centuries to get them to shut the fuck up and go along with whatever's going on. Stand by your man, ladies, Rosie the Riveters. It was all propaganda that made that happen. It was like that we gotta, you have to do your part at home. You can find all these videos on YouTube. You can look at the propaganda machines from back in those days. You had that. You didn't have. It wasn't like you could tune in another channel and get. I don't know. This is what I think about this. And if you did fight it, you could go to prison.
Yeah, just fall in line or get the fuck out of the way is what it was.
Yeah, we're not. We don't do that anymore.
You didn't have opinion. You didn't have the education that you do now.
We barely want to listen to fucking. We barely do what the police tell us to do when they got a fucking gun at our heads. These videos of people just not listening to the fucking cops. I get it. It sucks that they're these aggressive dudes with fucking guns in your faces for reasons that probably don't warrant a gun being in your face. But we're like, we won't listen to them. Like, so many videos where people get shot and it's just like, why don't you just get down on the fucking ground? Yeah. Sue later or put the video up and, make that your cause. But motherfucker, if you're dead, you can't fight that fight. But if we're not listening to when a gun is pointed right at our fucking head with someone who's bebadged, we're just in a different state of complacency and, fallen lineness, I suppose. So I don't know. I think for a lot of reasons, we're never going to see another World War, at least not like 1 and 2. If there is a World War III, it'll probably be very video gaming.
My fear is that World War III will just be just a slip of an ignorant button. You know what I mean? And just nuke.
That I do think could happen, because there are still insane men running this fucking country, and all they have to do is push a couple buttons, and then someone else pushes a couple buttons, and we will have a type of Armageddon within seconds, or minutes anyway. That will always be a worry, and it will only continue to be a bigger worry because weapons are getting better. We have no idea. Like, when's the last time we talked about weapon technology that the government probably has that we don't know about? We still talk about suitcase nukes. Suitcase nukes, that's 30 fucking years ago. Son, we have bigger problems to worry about. Can you imagine what our world governments, our superpowers have that we don't even fucking know about?
The nuke like fucking iWatches.
Yeah. That is a real worry. But I don't think World War III is ever going to happen, but we could be heading to something. You never do know. I do believe that many people are about to die because of this. I think that it is going to be it's going to be a combat, and people are going to die, and that's, I think, unavoidable at this point. I feel like I'd like to believe that we've had so many revolutions and again these uprisings that keep happening. I like to believe that in the age of information, we would absolutely refuse to let a World War III happen, and whatever that meant. If we all had to just attack our own governments and destroy them ourselves and dismantle them before they could dismantle the globe.
Too.
I'd like to believe that we do that.
Hope that I have is that as a people of the earth, I think the majority of us are just fucking tired of it. Yeah. And don't want something like that to happen, and it's just like a small minority, hopefully the smaller minority people that are still thinking that that's the way to go.
Yeah.
But that's my hope.
Yeah, isn't it funny how there's just it does seem to be this small pocket of people that just can't relinquish their grip on whatever the fuck this insanity is.
Think about all that energy and all that provoking and stuff, and like turning it around to the positive thing, and like fucking group together and help Australia, man. They're fucking burning down like ashes.
Yeah, the Australia thing is one of those situations where it's like, okay, if HARP really is controlling the weather, I don't care. Save the fucking country. Save the koalas and the roos and build a rainstorm over that country. We'll look the other way. And we'll talk about, or we'll address it later.
For sure.
It's like, we'll look the other way. But, there's a lot of really, really smart people that 100% believe that we have every capability of whipping up a rainstorm anywhere we want with all of these antenna farms all over the globe. And there is a major one in Australia. But it doesn't matter where they're at. They can control it. There are enough allegedly, across the globe to whip up a storm here and there. That'd be amazing. That'd be an amazing move forward. And I know that we as humans would abuse it because that's just what we do. We put a price tag on it so that a very small pocket of people can become insanely fucking rich. I don't expect any of that to go away or change. I don't think that we're heading toward a utopia anytime soon. But it would be nice if some of these powerful people would just do something that seemed like, wow, that is a really generous, amazing move forward that this government or that organization did. When's the last time we even said that?
All right.
And when we do get something that is a big leap forward, it's such a commodity and it's so ingrained in money that it's not for everybody. And just because we've made up a hierarchy. So, yeah, there's a lot to unpack there, I suppose. But
have you actually seen like the satellite footage of at night of I don't know if that's real or not of Australia?
I can't watch it. It's too fucking sad.
It's the entire fucking country.
Yeah,
it's insane. If it's real or not, I'm not sure. But
well, it's the entire country and many regions for sure. Yeah.
Oh.
Crazy. Well, should we get on to my not much more cheerful soup day shower? Now,
into it. Hit me with it.
Again, we're going to go with grim and pleasant. The whole reason that I got into this topic of people who died on stage is I was recently, just last week, reading about the anniversary of Dimebag Darrell, who was shot and killed on stage. You guys remember that? In the little club in Ohio in December.
How many years ago was that?
That was 2004.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. So Pantera had broken up a few years prior, I think, and Dimebag started a new band with his brother, Vinnie Paul, called Damage Plan, and they were just taking to the stage at the Alrosa Villa nightclub in Columbus, Ohio. And just a few seconds, maybe a minute or two into the very first song, some guy storms onto the side of the stage with a 9mm semi-automatic handgun and shoots. He went straight to Dimebag and shot him 5 or 6 times. Most of the shots were in his head. Wow. And it sounds like most experts agree that he was dead before he even hit the ground. At that point, the stage manager ran over to grab the guy with the gun, but was shot and killed during that struggle. The dude was reloading his gun, but he couldn't get his hand around the gun fast enough, and some of that guy's blood ended up on the handgun. And then a fan and a club employee jumped on stage to try to help Dimebag to see if he was salvageable, and they got shot and
8
killed.
rounds in the face.
Yeah, no, he was very, very clearly dead once they got close enough to him. But those two that tried to help him got shot and killed. So,
did you hear why he killed him?
Mm-hmm.
He specifically he was so delusional, this dude, in his mind, that he thought Dimebag Darrell stole all his music, all the music and
the lyrics.
Yeah,
from
he
him.
said that he stole them, and he was so livid and pissed off about it that he killed him. And he was just delusional.
Yeah, he also said something like he tried to, like before the show or earlier that week, he tried to meet Dimebag, and that he kind of blew him off, and that pissed him off. I don't know, but
isn't that the same thing that the guy who killed John Lennon thought too?
I think so too. Yeah,
something similar.
I thought that was something to do with the Catcher in the Rye. Wasn't there something from that he thought spoke to him? I can't remember what that story was. I don't remember that being part of it, but I could be wrong. I know there's a Catcher in the Rye connection somewhere. I don't remember what. But, the guy was definitely problematic, and people knew that. But, so at this point, he shot, I think this thing went on a few minutes, and the shooter grabbed somebody, the guy's name was Nathan Gale, the shooter. He grabbed 1 or 2 people out of the audience, and he put a gun against their head and was holding them hostage so he could escape. But by that time, someone had called for the police, and a cop came in named James Niggemeyer, and he ran into the club and shot the gunman right in the face with a shotgun, ending the entire incident. All of this was caught on video. You don't see much. It's not a terribly graphic video, and it's weird because it's 2004, but video cameras back then were so like it looks like looking at something from the mid 90s, but
all the interlacing and stuff.
But you see the guy get on stage and go straight for Darrell and start shooting, and you see the cop come in. Most of the shots, there seems to be, I have seen footage of a slightly different angle where it looks like you would see like all of the shots hit Dimebag and the manager, basically everybody, but I never have seen the full footage of that. It always cuts back to that one that's from the side of the stage, and you really just see people running off stage and running back on. But, yeah, apparently that guy, Nathan Gale, was a deranged Pantera fan, and aside of thinking that they were stealing his music, he apparently there's some other story, like some interaction with one of the members of Pantera. But Vinnie Paul often said that aside from the fact that Dimebag was gone, the other reason that Pantera would never be reuniting was that Vinnie partially blamed Pantera singer Phil Anselmo for the shooting, because after the Pantera breakup, there was some bad blood going on, and a couple of different instances, Anselmo said that someone should beat the shit out of Dimebag. Who knows if that fed into it? It probably didn't, but it's one of those things where it's like in hindsight, it's like I bet he wish he hadn't said that. And
no shit.
He was in so much shit for saying a bunch of racial shit, white power shit in concerts.
Oh
and
yeah,
stuff.
he's a straight up white power guy.
He did this fucking just pathetic fucking apology video on YouTube. It's probably still out there. You probably still find it. But yeah, he's a real fucking piece of work. That guy.
Yeah, I saw a piece of. I was never a Pantera fan, but
like wow.
But I saw footage of Anselmo doing the whole white power salute, like the straight up like Sieg Heil salute at some punk rock show a few years ago. It was like, whoa, that ain't riffing. Like that's coming from somewhere within. There's hate and anger behind it, and it's like that. Yeah, it's hard to apologize that away. It seemed like that was pretty realistic and legit, but who knows? But anyway, reading the details of that story, which I'd heard before, but I was like, oh yeah, that thing. I was like, God, it's fucking scary what can happen when you're just up there on stage in the midst of even a calm show is a type of controlled chaos. And it just got me thinking, I wonder how many other performers have died in the middle of a show on stage. And as it turns out, a fucking lot. Like I really had to weed this down to just a few of the more interesting and notable ones. But good Pete, performing is risky, especially if you're an escape artist. Which, moving into our very first one. In 1930, escape artist Genesta was well known for doing a lot of Houdini-esque. He was basically your run-of-the-mill Houdini impersonator. Not impersonator, but imitator, I should say. And he was doing one of Houdini's best-known tricks, which was escaping from a locked milk can. Just as it sounds, I suppose, the performer, although a lot of young people might not know what a milk can is.
Kind of like, it looks like a vase. I would like to say like it's got a bulbous bottom to it and then it tapers up to a lid.
Yeah, I guess we don't have milk cans anymore, right?
When you go to the fair and they make you knock those things over, right?
Yeah. They kind of look like they could be like antique oxygen tanks or something, the smaller ones. But then there are bigger ones that are more like, like 80-gallon drums. Mm-hmm. This was one of those bigger ones. And as it sounds, you just climbed in, and then the can was filled with water, and then the performer would duck into the water, and the assistants would quickly lower the heavy metal lid, which was then locked with 6 padlocks. Now, the keys to those padlocks were given out to 6 different random audience members, and they would all just wait while the man tried to escape. That was the trick. It was a dangerous trick, but the solution was pretty simple in that there was a lever inside that he pulled when the time felt right, and a mechanism fired off, and it basically just popped open a second ring that was out of sight. So it was a very simple trick, and then he just pop out in fancy flair. Unfortunately, when they were loading the can along with some other props off the truck earlier that day for the show, the can had fallen off the truck and got a little dent in it. And the crew looked at it and like, doesn't seem like it's that big a deal. So they never told Genesta. As it turns out, it was a pretty big deal because that dent jammed the lever from being able to open.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
So about the time Genesta was usually popping out with his dramatic flair, instead you could hear muffled screaming and pounding on the milk can.
Fuck.
And the can was like wobbling and wiggling around as he was like begging for help.
No, just cooking in there.
It's grim, right? Drowning. I mean, it was filled with water.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, what a sight that would have to be.
Wouldn't you have like a code word though, like the fucking orangutan or something?
Well, pounding on the wall and screaming for help, I think was his code word. But his, Genesta's wife was in the audience. She was the first one that realized that something was wrong. It's like she'd seen that trick done
Sure.
100 times. So she's like, why is he pounding? Why is he screaming? It's like, so she got the assistant's attention. It's like, get the fucking keys. But again, there were 6 different keys, and they'd passed them out to 6 different people in the audience. So the assistants were like frantically running into the crowd trying to find all the keys, which caused a panic, and people were started like running around like, oh my God, something's going on. It was a fucking disaster. Long story short, by the time they got all the keys, the legendary Janesta was long since drowned in front of the entire group. But yeah, there's something really troubling about the thought of seeing that can just like like wriggling around, like boom, 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 like someone just doing everything he can to get attention, knowing full well that part of the show is taking your only backup and distributing them to 6 random people out in the audience. It's like, how long can you hold your breath? Can you wait until they find those keys? Plus the panic, that's going to cause you to, drown sooner.
Yeah.
Anywho. Grim. Ooh, grim. Another magician that went out in a troubling way in front of a horrified audience was Joseph Burris. This was more recent. Burris was doing a locked-in-a-coffin stunt on Halloween in 1990. He'd done the escape trick before, and it's a really common trick. You're just shackled up inside a coffin and buried alive, and you have to fight your way out of it and dig your way out of it. Now, in this case, it was a glass coffin to add the drama and danger, but also so the crowd could verify that he was inside it and chained up, and there was no tricks concerning that. And then they would lower that coffin into a normal-sized grave and then cover it with dirt all the way to the surface, and he'd have a very short window to find his way out while he still could. But this was the first time that they elected to not only pour the dirt on, but wet cement onto a glass coffin.
What a great idea.
Yeah, there's video of this. I remember seeing it years ago, and they got
striking memory for me.
Yeah, they got the entire grave filled with the cement when suddenly you just saw the cement just go, yeah, it lowered like a foot or two immediately, and you can hear people in the video say, "Uh-oh," and the weight of the cement just crushed into the glass coffin and likely crushed Burroughs to death immediately. Like, they don't think he would have been around to suffocate. It was crushed to death.
100%. Have you ever picked up a 5-gallon bucket of cement?
Yeah,
dude, 100% that fucking killed him probably instantly.
Yeah. I mean, it's tragic, but at least he probably didn't know anything. Maybe he heard a sound of like, is that glass? And that's it.
Yeah. Hopefully.
It was a crazy stunt and really eerie to know that when you see that cement go down in that video, just a couple feet, it's like that dude is getting crushed to death. And they just had to slowly backhoe him out of the wet cement. Indeed grim. Now, very few details about this one from 1958 in Japan, but they'll stick with you. Actress Katsuki Hiromi was on stage performing Spring Dance when her clothes got caught in a stage lift that was rising up, and part of her was snagged below and part of her was being pulled up, and it ripped her in half.
Oh.
I double-checked this. This is an urban legend.
In front of everyone?
Ripped her in half in front of a full, sold-out audience.
Oh, my God.
Imagine seeing them shits.
Holy shit.
Grim. Very grim. I think it's time that we move into our first pleasant palate cleanser after that.
Well, I wonder how many people actually thought that was fake. At the time. They were probably,
we got some of those coming up. Yeah. I don't know how you could think that one was fake. It was certainly not part of the show. But again, coming up, we have some incidents that looked like it was part of the show. But first, I promised pleasantries along the way. So here's our first snack food factoid. Pop-Tarts. Pop-Tarts were invented by the Kellogg cereal company in 1964, but they were not the first ones to make toaster pastries. That would be Post, who had just... I love the story. The Post had just announced an upcoming line of their own toaster pastries called Country Squares. Doesn't quite have the ring. Now, these were the very first ready-to-eat human food to be commercially packaged in foil. Up until then, only dog food and maybe some cat food had been packaged that way for freshness. So that was an interesting tidbit. But before Post could even get them into production, they'd already made it known. They'd already had their advertising campaigns out there. Kellogg saw it, and they acted fast because they had a bigger facility. So they just stole it and changed their name to the much snappier Pop-Tart. And these toaster pastries flew off the fucking shelves. And the first ones only had fruit in the middle. But soon they started adding frosting on top and, adding all the new flavors to the mix. Exciting flavors.
I still pop those tarts.
Mm-hmm. I love Pop-Tarts. I wish I could still eat them. But next time you have one, pop it into your mouth and know that you are tasting the sweet, sweet flavor of theft.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Pleasant. See? That's a nice palate cleanser. Mm-hmm. Just a little factoid. Pop-Tart factoid.
Take us back to the lady that got ripped in half.
Well, a lot of times when someone dies on stage, people do think it's all part of the act, and they just applaud or laugh at the spectacle, which would really suck for all concerned. And one of those was comedian Red Fox. On Sanford and Son, he had that repeating bit that he was having a heart attack, and clutching his chest, he'd yell out, "This is the big one. I'm coming, Elizabeth." Elizabeth was his previously deceased wife. And then he'd flop on the ground and pretend to be dead. Well, Fox was at Paramount Studios rehearsing for a new show that he was working on called The Royal Family when he actually had a heart attack and fell to the ground, clutching his chest. So naturally, everyone around him that had seen that bit 100 times started laughing and even applauding, because everyone was always like bugging him to do the bit. This is the big one. And he was kind of a cantankerous old guy. And, get the fuck out of my face. So he finally gave everybody what they want, and they realized after a while, when he wasn't getting back up, that he was actually struggling for air. It was quite a while, though. And, people had time to run out of the room to grab someone from the break room. It was like, he's doing it, you got to see it.
Wow.
And so they got him into an ambulance, but he died a few hours later. But what a surreal thing for him to be on that floor, watching everybody laughing at him dying and thinking, fuck, they think I'm doing the bit.
It kind of feels like the Cry Wolf Kid,
It's a type of crying wolf. Cry bit. Tis grim. A similar event occurred at a theater in Maryland in 1986 when Edith Webster was performing in a play called The Drunkard. And it was a pretty well-known play, and it was pretty well known that at some point Edith Webster's character has a heart attack and dies in the show. Unfortunately, Webb actually had a real heart attack and collapsed and died on stage while the audience was laughing and clapping. Now, the actors knew that something was wrong because this was not... It didn't line up to be exactly where that part of the play was. They knew that something was like, she's not supposed to die until the third act. And even when paramedics were wheeling her away, the audience all still thought it was somehow part of the show.
Wow.
Grim.
Yeah.
Grim. Another one where audiences were unaware they just witnessed someone die was wrestler Owen Hart. And I feel like we probably talked about this on a former Tales from the Space pod, but Hart was up on the rafters above the mat, and the plan was to be lowered by a harness into the ring in the usual WW flair. But sadly, his harness broke, and he fell the entire distance of around 80 feet.
God.
Yeah, he bounced off the turnstile and then landed right in the middle of the ring, and blood immediately just started seeping out of his body.
No.
The crowd went wild, thinking it was part of the show. And, it was a live broadcast. I don't know if it was pay-per-view only, but they had to cut to, they couldn't cut to commercial. They cut to some sort of video feed away from it. And the fall had torn Hart's aorta open. And they said that he was probably dead within minutes. And so the announcer had to come back on and break it to everyone that they'd just seen a man die. And here's a clip of that.
In Kansas City, tragedy befell the World Wrestling Federation and all of us Owen Hart was set to make an entrance from the ceiling, and he fell from the ceiling. And I have the unfortunate responsibility to let everyone know that Owen Hart has died. Owen Hart has tragically died from that accident here tonight.
What's weird is that everyone's still waving banners. They're all still like pumping their fist, but you can kind of see people in the audience behind them figuring it out. I'm like, wait, what? But it really wasn't until most people got home that they realized that that dude actually died right in front of them.
I'd never seen it. I actually had to just Google it just now and there. There's actual footage of it on YouTube.
There's no real footage of it, actually. There's some that purports to be it. By all official accounts, there was no footage of it, which is weird because...
I'll send it to you. I found it. It's on the scaffold, and he falls into the turnbuckle, and he's on the ground.
I don't think so. Play the video.
I'll find it for you. Well, I find it.
I searched for a video, and then I looked it up, and there are no existing videos of it. That video that comes up on Daily Motion is someone edited together one of his previous entries from the rafters. But then there's like credits going over it that says this is not the actual footage. What most accounts say is that the fall actually happened so fast, and none of the cameras were trained on the mat at that point because the thing hadn't really begun. He was just getting ready. And so it was still on either the crowd or some interview happening or the reporters, the commentators, I should say. So none of those cameras apparently ever caught footage of it.
I sent it to you. I don't know if it is or not, but it's...
No, it's the one I saw earlier. It's
go ahead
and play it. Like, see, he's up there.
What that looks like is he's getting thrown off scaffold. That's way the fuck up there into a table, and that's not the right one.
Yeah, no. That's
what I've always was heard about was like it was the beginning intro, like of his song, and he came down from the ceiling, and then when he was coming down through the harness broke, but he was supposed to cable down from the ceiling for his beginning intro, and he just fell.
Yeah, well, that's what it was.
Broke. Yeah, this video isn't right.
No, that's there's quite a few videos out there that are labeled as it, but as soon as you watch it, you realize it's not. No, it's kind of a mystery why there's no footage. Some people said that some of the higher ups in the WWF immediately erased those tapes just out of respect. But it seems more likely that there were just no tapes recording on any camera that caught it. Everyone that was in the audience said they didn't even really see him fall. It was just like all of a sudden he was down there and bleeding, and like he fell so quickly that no cameras had the time to turn and get it. Now I haven't even seen any footage of the aftermath of him on the stage, so I don't know. Maybe they did get rid of that footage. This would have been, in a time I don't know. It's hard to believe. With everyone selling pictures of everything, I mean, they sold Elvis's picture back in the.
It was a different time. We didn't have the technology like we did back then.
Mm-hmm.
Back then, I mean, you had only flip phones if you were lucky. Nokia phones with the Snake game on it. They didn't have the capability. And like events like that, you're not really supposed to, I think, bring cameras in. So
no, you wouldn't have anything to have captured that. I mean, if anything, it would have been like a Polaroid of him in mid-flight. That would be like a miraculous shot. But it still does seem odd that there's no footage you can find.
So this wasn't a televised event, or was it?
It was, but what people saw at home on TV was probably two commentators talking, or an interview, or a shot of the crowd. It was not a shot of the mat. So they cut to a commercial or to another feed before the video feed ever went anywhere near the mat. So anyone watching at home never saw it at all. So no one got it on VHS watching it at home.
So this was like a thing where he before they started filming the stage, he would be up at the ceiling, and then as the match started, they would put the cameras on, and then he would come down. Is that So the cameras were pointed elsewhere at the time.
Yeah, I don't think that he was in the process of being lowered down. I think he was like waiting for the cue to be lowered down, and that's the harness broke when he was waiting. So
it still seems a little specious that there wasn't at least one camera pointed at him. But
it's strange. Yeah, I mean it's the fucking WWF. Think about how many camera angles they would have going at any time. So it's hard to believe that there wouldn't have been footage of it at some point in the control room. But again, the stories, the further you dig with it, seem to be that some of the higher-ups in the WWF, out of respect, immediately destroyed those tapes.
Yeah, at the time, it seems like the time that happened, they could have probably done that if it wasn't like a live broadcast that somebody was videotaping or whatever, and they didn't like put that out there.
Yeah, and maybe they thought it was a liability issue. Who knows? Go ahead, Lo.
I was going to say between that, it would probably be more of a liability issue. They openly admitted it, so they could be sued for it.
Yeah.
The Hearts got really fucked out of the WWF, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Well, all those wrestlers do.
Yeah. Well, all of the wrestlers did. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, how about a quick detour into Cheetos territory?
Oh,
if you had to guess, when did you say that Cheetos were invented?
1961.
Good guess.
When did fingers go orange? Let's see. 1954.
Okay, 54. John Mark, what about you?
Oh, I don't know. I know it wasn't that long ago, though.
Take a guess.
Yeah. I don't know.
75.
It was longer than you thought. Lyle was closest. It was invented in 1948. By the Fritos founder, Charles Doolin. And he whipped up the first batch in his Fritos kitchen, their experimental kitchen, and he took a few bags of it to some local fairs, which sold out immediately. Then he took them to some carnivals, sold out immediately. And they just took off. And can you imagine, like, tasting a Cheeto in 1948? Like, we have so many things now, but back then, they had, like, 5 things.
Well, you think about Cheetos and you think about cheese, right? Mm-hmm. And then like Cheetos today.
Wait, are we talking about Cheetos or Fritos?
We're talking cheese.
The puffs or the which one?
No,
the puffs
came
Mexican
later.
Guy that invented the actual Cheetos, right?
Oh, you're thinking of the Frito Bandito.
No. There was a Mexican dude that was like working at one of the factories.
Come on, that was good.
That discovered that came up with the use of. There's a documentary about it.
That came up with what? The cheese puff?
The Cheetos.
No, I didn't see any of that, and I just looked up the Wikipedia on it, so didn't see any mention of that. But I would buy it. Yeah.
Well, we can revisit this later after we've done some more research on it.
Yeah, this could be a whole show, but just imagine going back in that era and eating that explosion of cheesy cheese dust flavor. And Doolin's Frito company was too small to keep up with that demand, so he reached out to his, I guess, quasi-competitor, potato chip magnate Herman Lay, for his kitchen and distribution help. And he agreed, and over the next couple decades, the sales of Cheetos was so fruitful that both companies decided to merge into Frito-Lay.
Oh.
See, we're back on target. It's pleasant again. Is this dumb or the best thing ever? I'm enjoying hopping back and forth.
I'm enjoying it quite a bit, yeah.
And getting hungry. Now, Renato Di Paolo was another example of the audience thinking that this was part of the show. He was cast as Judas Iscariot in a pretty large production of a passion play in Italy. And part of the plan, he was to be hanged by a rigged noose system. Now, for those of you heathens out there that don't know the story, Judas betrayed Christ with a kiss and later couldn't take the guilt of doing so, and so he hung himself. That's a big part of the story, and I'm sure you can guess where this this one goes. Now, when it came time for Judas to hang himself, something the actor had done several nights in a row. This was an ongoing show run with zero troubles. This time, for whatever reason, the noose actually cinched up and it hung him in front of everybody. And because, of course, this was unlike the heart attack that happened in the wrong time, this was exactly when Judas was supposed to be hanged. So, and they left him hanging there as part of the scene, like the,
like outro.
The rest of it played out like in the foreground, while in the background, Judas is still hanging.
Brutal.
There. For 30
fucking
minutes, the dude was sitting there hanging. And apparently it wasn't until they wheeled him off for the next set change that they tried to get him to get down. Like, what's the matter? Oh, his head's purple, and like, shit. And then they figured it out. And it's like, it's theater. Get creative, but maybe don't risk the whole news thing. It got me thinking, the church that I went to as a kid once built a working guillotine for a play that they actually had someone stick their fucking head in, and someone was holding a rope until the lights went down. And then he pops his head back, then swaps it out real quick for a dummy head. The lights come back up. This all happens in seconds, and then he drops the rope, and it drops. Now, this wasn't a blade, but it was a 12-foot guillotine with a very heavy crossboard, painted to look like metal that comes thumping down. They wanted it to be heavy, so it made a loud sound. That so easily
snap your head
could
off.
have crushed that dude's throat, at the very least. And remember, these aren't engineers we're talking about here. Grim. Now, in 1958, there was a British series called Armchair Theater, which, reading about this, I think is a great idea for a TV show. Did someone just swallow their microphone? But it was a live broadcast of complete plays. And I think that'd be fun. Maybe they're doing that, and I'm just not aware of it. But especially if it was live like that, like you were watching it live. I know they do that from time to time. Like on Halloween, I've seen PBS do a live version of Frankenstein that's happening in New York. It's exciting. I think it's a cool thing, but it could easily be an ongoing show. But anyway, being live led to some troubling things, like actor Gareth Jones, who was playing a part of a weak-hearted man in a play called Underground, which was about some people being trapped in a subway together. Before the show, Gareth was complaining about not feeling well, but, the show must go on, and it was pretty clear, though, that as the show started, that Gareth really didn't look well, and so he kind of like wandered off stage to take 5 in the makeup room, and he collapsed. And the makeup people were like, what the fuck do we do? So they got some frantic stagehands to pick him up, and they carried him across the stage, which was the only way to get to the outer exits on the other side. And the other actors that were in the middle of their live performance were super confused, of course, but they knew the show was live and being aired all over the country, all over Europe, actually. So they started ad-libbing, like, jokey stuff about the body that had just been carried across the stage and had gone out on live television. And his wife was home watching the live show at the time, and she said to herself, like, well, that was an odd bit of theater right there.
Like,
she just,
God.
it was only after the show that she and everyone else learned what happened. That's a doozy of a way to sort of like, in hindsight, find out that you saw your dead spouse being dragged across the stage on live TV. Very, very strange.
Wow.
Grim.
Let's go back to Cheetos.
Well, you know what? Looking at the clock, why don't we end on, one more pleasantry? Because this could go on and on and on, and maybe I'll do another round of people who have died on stage, because I shit you not, like, do a Wikipedia search of people who died on stage. It starts in like the 1700s, and there's hundreds. There's like, it goes on and on and on and on. And there are some really prominent ones that I did not bring up tonight that I bet a lot of people out there are like, how could you not bring that one up? So we'll do a part 2 of this.
I was going to say, like, Tommy Lee, I think he died on stage, didn't he? And they brought him back to life. Had a heart attack.
Well, Nikki Sixx. I don't know if it was on stage, but Nikki Sixx definitely died, and they brought him back, yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. I'll leave you with the little Oreo mystery. The Oreo biscuit was invented by the Nabisco Company in its factory in Chelsea, Manhattan in 1912. Contrary to the popular belief, it wasn't the first of its kind. The Sunshine Company had been producing their very popular Hydrox sandwich cookies for years. And Oreo was Nabisco's stab at some of that market. I think that's funny because I feel like most of us refer to Hydrox as the imitation or poor boy Oreos growing up. But Hydrox was first. And they later changed the name Oreo Biscuit to Oreo Sandwich. And then it wasn't until 1974 that it became Oreo Chocolate Sandwich Cookie, which apparently it still says on the packaging.
Yeah, I think in 1980 they were called "Get the Fuck in My Milk."
Ooh, I do like a milk-soaked Oreo. Well, you know what I like about it is if you do it like half and half, and so you have one half that's like dissolving in your mouth, and it meets the shoreline of the still intact cookie crunch. Yeah, I don't know. It's a pleasant, it's semi-troubling texture. But I find that to be true with most enjoyable textures. They're almost troubling, right?
Yeah.
Now, the mystery here is that where did the name Oreo come from? No one seems to really know. And the company itself has no real story on it. Now, some people think it came from the French word or, meaning gold, which doesn't really compute. Others think it may have been from the Latin word Oridaphne, which is a genus of the laurel family. Now, one clue is that the cookie itself has a pattern of a laurel wreath stamped into it. And I got to be honest, I've never really tried to break down that pattern that's happening on the Oreo cookie. Have you guys ever looked? I mean, aside from just like the Oreo logo in the middle, but sure enough, it's a wreath. Now, another clue that it may be based off the Oreo Daphne is that Nabisco had other cookies already in production that were named after plants, like the Avena and Lotus and a few other ones. But most people just think it was probably a coined word that was fun to say, which it is, and made a good logo. But funny to think that such a simple and iconic brand doesn't really have a clear origin story.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Oreo. Oh, Oreo.
Bum, 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 bum.
You've got the white stuff.
Yeah.
Baby. Good shit. Oh, Weird Al. All right. Shall we get on to some weird trivia? Although it's going to be a bit different. What shall we call it?
I don't know. I'm at a loss. You really caught me off guard there, Ron.
It's hard to follow the Oreo thing.
No shit. Yeah. Oh no. I got a lot of really good feedback when we did that top 100 shows that had the worst endings. So I thought we'd do some more of those. Kind of throw those in every now and then instead of weird trivia. Tonight is no different. We are going to do. I think we're all going to like this. The hardest video games ever to complete. Mm-hmm. And I like this one quite a bit because, as I told the boys earlier, 9 out of 10 of the top 10 games on this list are from the NES or Super Nintendo era. Now, I'm not going to say necessarily
that equalizes us because you guys know I only do retro gaming. Yeah. So I do feel like this is a pretty fair game.
So here's what I'm going to do. Last time I'm struggling to find a way to properly score this for you guys, but there's 27 games on this list. I think I'll just write down if you guys get 1, 2, 3, or 4, and we'll just kind of go over them at the end and see who had the highest numbers.
Okay.
All right, Ron, you were way too good at this last time. I'm going to make you go third. You're not going to get first pick, buddy.
That's fair.
Hardest video games to complete. Lyle, what you got, baby? Hardest.
This is the scale 10 on the crippler.
Oh,
yeah. No, this is the hardest NES game that I ever played, and it's because of this game. It's almost nearly impossible. I don't think I beat it. I know I can tell you right now I haven't beat it because the way you beat this game is that you go all the way through the levels to the end and then all the way back to the beginning, and that is Ghosts and Goblins, mother trucker.
Mm. Oh yeah, we had to play it twice. You had to do the entire thing twice. Yeah,
Ghosts and Goblins.
I'd be shocked if that wasn't number one.
That's the hardest one, dude. It's so hard because you only have 3 lives, and if you die, you're done.
Game.
Okay, I'm gonna tell you right now, it's number 3.
Oh,
on
baby.
this.
That's shocking.
3's not bad. 3's not bad. I gotta say though, I wholeheartedly agree with what number 1 is. It's easily
Okay, so
my.
it's not like something crazy that.
No. Oh, I mean, I don't think it is, but who knows? All right, Lyle, that was number 3. So you've got. I'm gonna knock 3 off the list here. John Mark, what you got, baby?
So, is the variation Super Ghouls and Ghosts? Is that as count as a separate game, or is that just is that just Ghosts and Goblins?
That is
That would have to be a separate game.
Separate game.
That's my guess.
Number 4 on the list, baby. Boom.
Yeah, it's a good one too.
I fucking loved that game.
So, yeah.
Remember when I was in college, we left the Super Nintendo on for weeks at a time so we could
there's no
continue. And we fucking did beat it. It was so great.
Yeah,
Ronster.
That was one of the
anywhere.
first. That was an early SNES game, and they really showed off the graphics on that one.
so
It was
good.
such a fun.
Yeah.
It still looks good.
Yeah, you remember getting like the emerald armor and then the gold armor.
Yeah. Oh, so fucking frustrating though. And then at some point you're just in your underwear running around in a
you're
blizzard.
like,
It's like,
fuck
wow,
it.
that would suck.
Fuck it, I'll fight him with my dick.
It's bad enough I'm fighting monsters, but I'm barefoot and in my undies. Whew, misery.
I'll have this lance.
That game is just like one bad game of strip poker. You're like, fuck, here we go again. Down to nothing.
The first game that I remember being like super thrilled that I beat was Metroid. And that's got to be somewhere up there. That's not an easy game.
It is not on the list at all, actually.
No, no.
It's I think Metroid is not. It's a difficult game, but it's not a difficult game to complete. I think many people
I
have
bet there
completed
are a few
Metroid.
that I can come up with that I think might be on the list that should not be above
Maybe.
Metroid. Metroid was a hard fucking game. Do you remember that shit?
I beat
Not
it with
Super
my-
Metroid,
But it was
Metroid.
It was doable, especially if you had some map knowledge of where shit was. You know what I mean? Like there are games on this list that just don't fucking make
Well, we
sense.
didn't have no
to play.
fucking maps. We made our own maps. We had to write down.
Oh, you
we
didn't get
drew
no,
them.
You didn't get no Nintendo Power at your house?
We did eventually, but that was after we already beat. Jason and I would sit there and we would draw out the maps. Like we would build our own maps.
I taught my cousin left and right playing Zelda,
Yeah.
because we'd make little maps for me.
Yeah,
All right,
similar
Ronster, sorry,
thing.
buddy. No,
Yeah,
it's a
well,
big whiff.
maybe I'm not going to
It's
do as well.
surprising. I understand, but I think when you hear some of these other ones, you'll be like, "Oh fuck." Lyle, back to you, baby.
Round number 2, my guess, another game on the NES that was kind of struggling and it was fairly difficult would be Castlevania.
Yeah, that was a tough game, but
Well, it was hard because you had to go through the same thing. It's like you only had 3 lives and you had to get through it all. And most times you couldn't do it.
Castlevania, number 5 on the list.
Damn.
And I gotta be honest.
there's no way
I
that
played through
Castlevania is harder than
Yeah.
fucking or
No,
easier.
it
or
is
harder
so
than
fucking
that.
hard. Let me tell you, I recently played through it in its entirety, and it is so hard because I did it on the Xbox where they let me make saves in between. There's just no fucking way you could have the patience. I died 11 times, and I
Harder
I
than
really
Metroid?
tried hard.
You remember having to farm for fucking health to
Metroid-
refill your
Metroid-
tanks up for
yeah.
half an hour
It's
just so you could
easier-
try the Mother
it's
Brain
easier
again?
Gameplay, though. I think the gameplay is easier. Like Castlevania's fucking hard.
Yeah,
It's
it's
like
hard.
the jump-
It is hard.
It's really hard. So I don't know. That's just my opinion, and apparently,
God, the
about
top
11,000
5
other
is
people.
almost already spoken for.
Lyle. Oh, excuse me, John Mark.
I'm thinking. Complete. Hardest games to complete. I'm trying to think of what I even completed back in the day. How about Kid Icarus?
I bet a lot of people haven't played that, but it is a hard game. That's a
Not on the
that's on the
list.
Metroid engine.
Is it
Yeah.
really?
Yeah, it's a very similar build to the Metroid.
Not on the list today, my friend. Sorry. Ronster, what you got? Come back strong, baby.
I think I need to stop thinking about myself and start thinking about what I've heard about other games. I know I've played Battletoads, and it was super fun. And I don't know that I ever had enough time to play it to where it got super hard, but I've heard so many people say that game gets insanely hard. So I go with Battletoads.
Number 2 on the list,
Ooh,
Ron.
yeah.
Went with your gut. Your
That
gut
was a good call.
right.
I totally forgot about that
My
fucking
God.
hoverbike level.
Fucking hard
Is it
game.
the hover
I don't
bikes?
think
never
I
got
played.
anywhere near it.
Oh my god, I played the shit out of that game.
It's such
Never
a fun
beat
game. It's so fun.
It is fun. It is like it was a great Double Dragon like rip-off style game.
Yeah.
With just
But funny, with
man.
like the animations were funny when your eyeballs will pop out of your head. You smash a robot to pieces and you can pick up a part of him and beat the shit out of the other
Yeah,
robot.
it's great.
Like, that game was ahead of its time.
You're
The
right.
graphics
You're right
were
back
amazing.
in. Yeah, they were. You're right back in this game, Ronster. I think
Okay.
with snagging that number 2.
All right.
Lyle,
You know, you're saying that the NES is like the top 10. And
NES and SNES, I would say.
Sure.
A little bit of
That's
yeah.
important to
the
remember.
game that comes into mind that I can't think that I ever beat, that I used to play a lot, and I used to play it on the arcade, was Gauntlet. Elf Needs Food.
That game's insane.
Gauntlet not on this list, buddy.
Surprised?
I'm surprised too. Yeah, I'm surprised as well. But I do think the top 10 on this list is really good. Okay, I'm gonna put that down
There's
as
so
a 0.
many.
Yeah.
Between those
That's your
two
first-
Well,
consoles,
there's a lot of new games that are really tough too.
Well, there's new games on this list further down too, for sure.
Okay.
yeah, but the NES, I still think some of those games are the hardest that you'll ever fucking play.
Absolutely. When you hear some of these, you're just gonna be like, oh yeah.
Oh, I'm sure.
Trust me. John Mark.
But a lot of the ones that were super hard for me, I don't know that they were super common games. That's why I had to switch the way I do it. But I've got a couple out of my playbook that I think might be up there.
I'm trying to think of times when my cousin would like throw his controller, and I would get mad because it wasn't his controller; it was my controller. I didn't want him to fucking break it.
That's a good angle. When have you thrown the controller? Ooh, that just helped me.
Is Bionic Commando on that there list?
That's a fucking great guess. I'm gonna tell you right now, it is not. That was a very
I'm not
different
familiar
game.
with that one.
And that to me
was
is
that one of
that
the-
to me deserves.
Metal Gear.
No, it felt like it though. You were a guy with a little robotic arm and a blaster cannon for an
You
arm,
sling
and you would sling around the levels, and to control that was impossible, right? I mean, it was like fucking ludicrous.
I love that.
Yeah, me too. I really enjoyed that. Nope, not on the list, but good guess. That's a really good guess. Ronster.
Well, I'm tempted to go with the games that I had in my... I'm going to go with one, at least, to get it out of the way, because it was a hard game. I'll go with Super Contra. What's funny is that it's so fucking hard to play Super Contra at first. But then
yeah,
once you know it, it's like you could just sit there and play it. I guess that's true with any game once you really have it. Although not with fucking Metroid. I'm telling you, man.
Super Contra is not on the list.
That's
Yeah, all
weird.
right.
I
I'm
was
not
thinking
going with-
Contra myself.
I'm not going
Well,
with... Well,
he
I
said-
said Super Contra, so I may have given you a leg up on that. I didn't own Contra, but I know that it's hard too. Maybe even harder. But that's still open
God.
for debate.
So
Yeah,
many comments. Go ahead.
Who?
Did you have something else?
No, I'm done.
Finish your thought. No.
Finish
Lyle,
him.
we're coming back to you, baby.
Okay, I'm gonna go with future games because I'm all out of good. The hard games for me, the NES weren't that hard. You know what I mean?
Okay,
There was a few that I already named that I thought were difficult. We're gonna go into the future a little farther, and I'm gonna go Demon fucking Souls because that game was terrible fucking hard. I thought.
Is it called? Oh yeah, Demon Souls is on the list. 15th on the list
Wow,
here.
nice.
Not a bad little pickup.
All right.
Your points in here, John Mark.
Oh, so okay. So you said most of. So you said most of them were in the NES or SNES era.
I would tell you,
The top 10.
I would say 90% of all these games are from that era, but there are definitely a collection of games that are not.
I know he said Demon Souls, but is Dark Souls on there?
It is not.
What the hell?
That's fucking sacrilege.
I'm surprised at that as well. I couldn't get past the first guy. And that's why I left that game. Just gonna
I'm just
double check.
whiffing over. I'm just whiffing over here.
Maybe you're just too good at video games. Maybe that's
I
what it
guess.
is. You're like, no, this shit's hard. Okay. Lyle. Oh, no, Ron, excuse me.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm torn between a couple. One that I used to play and one that I've never played, but I've seen other people play it, and it's kind of become a meme of how ridiculously difficult it is. I feel like my back is against the wall. I'm going to go that route. That is Silver Surfer. Not a game that I think a lot of people know, but if they know it, it's because they know how stupid hard they built it.
Silver Surfer is on the list. I'll tell you, I'm just trying to find it. It is number 14. I've never played it. I'd never even heard of it until I found
It's
this list.
just one of those ridiculous things. It was like you go like 5 seconds, die, then 10 seconds, die. Like there's so many stupid. It's bad controls, bad obstacles. Yeah.
All right, Lau.
So
you got anything else from you here?
I do have a question. Is there any games that are on there from the Atari?
There is.
Okay.
Just one, I believe.
Good question.
I'm gonna. God, you know what
I
kills
bet
me?
I know what that one is.
I bet you do too. Okay, go ahead.
One of the most favorite games I think I ever played on the Atari was Pitfall, and it was pretty. It was pretty.
I felt like Pitfall just kind of went on and on.
It did.
Did you ever beat it? This is the question.
Do you beat it?
I don't know.
I guess I always thought it was just like a high score, like you go until you die, and then whoever had the highest score.
The Astro, you could flip it.
It felt like you were
100,000.
running somewhere, though, right? Like you felt like you were going somewhere in Pitfall, but you go on and on and on. Yeah.
Pitfall is not on the list. Sorry, sir.
That's okay.
Joe Mark.
Oh, we should all. Can we all? I say we all do an Atari guess round.
Sure.
There's only one. We're all competing for the nut.
Atari guess round, huh?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, Lyle got his in.
All right. So he guessed Pitfall. Atari. What was the hardest Atari game?
Hardest to complete.
Complete is a big. That sets a lot of games apart in Atari.
Pac-Man.
Can't get Pitfall.
No, Pac-Man.
My
Monster,
mom
what is it?
Flipped over Pac-Man into the million. I would guess that it's Raiders of the Lost Ark.
God,
It can't be E.T.
No, it's fucking E.T.
You know, I
When I
knew.
was gonna choose.
See, this is the thing.
was
It's like
so fucking
there's
hard.
this new zeitgeist happening with video games, and I think a lot of these answers are coming from not having played them per se, but
I've done
them
E.T.,
being
dude.
infamous for one reason or another. E.T. is super fucking easy to beat. I beat it over and over and over again when I was like 6.
You can't even fucking guide yourself. There's no guide to it.
And yet I figured it out. The entire point was to get picked back up by your spaceship.
I think the people that even designed it couldn't even figure it out. They gave up on
There's
it.
a whole documentary about that.
Fucking landfill.
It's really
I
good.
thought it was possible to complete this in a landfill.
Really, really.
It
I can't remember
was-
the name of it. But.
I'm gonna
Okay,
tell
that
you
was our
guys,
Atari round.
would you guys like more rounds, or do you want me to tally it up here and go over
Let's
the answers?
do
with
one
you?
more round and see where we end
Okay.
up, since we're getting a little long here. But
Lyle.
I'm not looking
Another-
nearly as good as I thought.
I was really hoping that was going to come around because I was going to say E.T. Because I honestly, dude, I played that game forever and I could not figure it out because you go to one screen and then it just goes to another. Like, they're fucking dots. There's no graphics in
Figured
it.
it out. I think I read the manual.
Read the manual, Ronnie.
I like my head against the fucking wall on that.
Stick with me, E.T. We'll collect all them Reese's Pieces.
So for a game that came out that I really enjoyed a lot, and I think it was difficult to complete because you only had so much storage room in your items, but you had all these puzzles to go along and zombies to kill. I'm going to say that game was Resident Evil, the first one.
Not on the list, but that was a very difficult game and an enjoyable one for certain.
Right?
Yeah. John Mark?
Yoda sucks.
Yes. Sure. I don't think
How
so when
about-
I read them to you.
Just the original classic Super Mario Brothers.
Not on the list, but when you'll be surprised when you hear something else on it.
That was a challenge. It was definitely a challenge.
Yeah.
I don't know. At this point, I'm just trying to guess what games come to people's minds.
I don't remember 1,000 games from that era.
Like Fester's Quest was the hardest game I ever played because I couldn't get more than fucking 5 minutes into it. But I'm not going to guess that that's on the list, at least not in a place that can win me the game. So I'm going to go with the fucking Zelda, the original Legend of Zelda.
Zelda, the Legend of Zelda is not on the list.
Jesus.
I thought that was a very tough game too. I agree with you. I never beat that as a child. I actually had to beat it as an adult.
I beat it on a
had my wits about
13-inch
me.
black and white TV.
Holy shit!
What's funny is I
Again.
had that game before I had Super Mario Brothers, so I beat that before I.
I'm going to say most of those games weren't really difficult. They were more of time consuming, like
you had
Final
to-
Fantasy. You had to get into the
Took
store,
fucking ever. Yeah.
and it just took forever.
Yeah.
It wasn't
like
difficult.
Mega Man was tough, but I was like, do I choose Mega Man 1, Mega Man 2? Mega Man
Shit.
2 was the one I would have picked, but I don't fucking know. Where are we at? What else? What's on that goddamn list?
Well, let's go over how you guys did real fast because I think I can crown a winner.
Oh, Mega Man.
Lyle had number 3. Lyle had number 3 right, number 5 right, and number 15 right. John Mark got number 4. Ronster got number 2 and number 14. I think Lyle is the winner today on this list. Well done, sir.
Wasn't a
Putting this
blowout
down.
as much as it felt like, but it was
No,
good.
it
Yeah.
isn't. You know, it's only 26. I'm just going to go over all of them. So I think the bottom 10 are kind of throwaways. I don't know much about them, but let's do it. Number 26, The Wizard of Oz for the Super Nintendo.
See,
Never played it.
It
I've
was
never
just a
even
bad
heard
game.
of it.
That's just a bad game. That's
Yeah,
what
well-
I wasn't sure how to guess. Like, is it just shitty games that are impossible to play, or good games that are really hard? Because there's a difference.
There's a difference there.
I think you get a little bit of both, honestly.
Yeah.
Number 25, Star Wars X-Wing versus TIE Fighter, PC game. Never played it.
Yeah, it was a little difficult, but it was all time. It was stupid.
Number 24, F-Zero GX. It was a sequel to F-Zero for the SNES. I'm not sure what platform. Looks like it might have been a...
F-Zero
Oh
felt when
my
you were playing that.
god,
And you were
yes.
living with
Pilot Wings.
The future
Remember
is
fucking
here.
Pilot Wings? Yeah. Number 23, Genghis Khan. It was an NES game. I never played it.
Never
Killed
heard
that
of it.
bitch in
I'm
15
telling you,
minutes.
like the first 10, man. But when it gets down to like
Motherfucker
13
choked
on,
to death.
Yeah. Number 22, Aliens versus Predator.
That was pretty dope. That was pretty fun, but I don't
It
think
was a Jaguar game.
I remember that.
Remember the Jaguar?
Jaguar.
Dude.
Was that
Well, yeah,
Played that.
PC.
Played that
Atari?
game. No, it's a Jaguar.
Jaguar was
That was its
it was
own
like
company?
after Atari.
No.
Yeah, it was like
I'm pretty
Turbo
sure Jaguar
Effects
was
and all
an Atari
that.
thing, wasn't it?
I don't know.
Anyway.
Number 21, a PlayStation 2 game. It was a variation of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the reboot animation style. Never played it, but I guess it was real tough. Number 20, Star Wars X-Wing. Again, I think that was a SNES or a N64 game, but I'm not really sure. Never played that one. Number 19, Lord of the Rings Volume 1, which I think was
Really?
a PC. Oh, Super Nintendo. Yeah.
Yeah, I
They
remember
had-
playing that. That was fun.
I never played it. I never played it.
I have a copy for the PC.
This was a weird one I remember, but I don't remember playing. Number 18, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. It was an NES game.
Yeah.
Really colorful cover.
Pretty
I
famous
don't
for being
remember
a bad
any
game.
of these fucking games.
That's it.
Yeah,
I never
this-
saw it, but it's one of those that's later become famous for being just bad, hard.
I remember playing the shit out of this one and completing it. I don't remember it. I just remember loving it. Number 17, Dragon Warrior 2 for the NES. Love that Dragon Warrior
was that an
series.
RPG?
It certainly was. It was.
did get
I
it
got it.
once.
It was the. I think my mom got me a subscription to Nintendo Powie back in the day, and the very first time you subscribed, it came with the game, and it was Dragon Warrior, and I was like fucking 8 maybe, and I fell in love with RPGs at that age.
Well, no wonder
Because-
Metroid was easy. Someone had themselves a little bitch map.
That's right.
Like, you
Clickety
know what?
clack.
I'm gonna go get the fucking
Flippity-flap.
freezy beam Ross over here because I know it's Ross over here. What a luxury.
Number 16 was E.T.
That's fucking insane.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Number 15, I believe Lyle got with Demon Souls. Number
That's
14 was Silver Surfer. Number 13, nobody ever got, but we were on the right track there. Castlevania 2, Simon's Quest.
Yeah, I almost guessed
I was
it.
thinking it was
But
like
that's-
one of the sequels.
That's the trouble about the sequels. Is like, how many of these are Castlevania? How many could be Mega Man?
Number 12, Super Mario Brothers: The Lost Levels. I think that was re-released later. I think it was only released in Japan.
Well, that was the original Super Mario Brothers 2.
No.
Yeah.
Oh,
but there were two things. They said it was too hard and it was too similar to the original game. That's why Super Mario Brothers 2 was such a departure, because they took Doki Doki Panic, I think is the name of that game. The Super Mario Brothers 2 was already a game that existed in Japan called Doki Doki Panic. You can look it up. It's the exact same game with different characters. So Nintendo basically just painted on Mario's face and added some princesses and a couple of mushrooms instead of some other items and turned it into Super Mario Brothers 2. But the Lost Levels was what Super Mario Brothers 2 was originally going to be.
Huh. I didn't know that. I do love.
Oh, it's me.
I think Super Mario Brothers 2 deserves to be on this list. Frankly, it was a fucking difficult game.
It is hard, but that was a fun game. I love that game.
Love it.
I love all three Marios.
Yeah, they're great.
What about Mario World? Super Mario World was great too.
Yeah,
challenging
11,
but not super hard.
Yeah. Number 11 on the list here, Shinobi. I think that was a Sega Genesis game.
Ooh, yeah. I bet Ninja Gaiden somewhere on there now that I think about it, too. That was a hard game.
Okay. Number 10, Ninja Gaiden Black.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I don't know if you played the Xbox Plus ones. They are fucking hard and so much fun. And I loved those games, but this was a tough game. Here's one that like I said, anything down from on this list I thought was super well ranked. Number 9, Zelda 2: The Adventure of Link. Never fucking could beat that game. I played the shit out of it.
Game.
I never played it.
Death Mountain is fucking insane.
My God. Like, you just don't, it's like the shift from Zelda from Mario 1 to Mario 2. Like, it was a completely different style game.
Totally different, yeah.
Yeah, and it was so hard. I loved it though. Number 8 on the list, the original Contra. Try beating that game without cheating with the Konami code. Try beating that game on 3 lives. There's just no fucking way. I can do it with
Super C, but Single C?
Single C?
I've probably played the original Contra like 5 times in my entire life, but I own Super Contra, so I could beat that game today probably with just a few practice tries.
Number 7, I'm surprised the roster didn't go for this with Mega Man. Difficult.
I would have gone with Mega Man 2, and you couldn't accept that because it's a different game. So I never played Mega Man. I started with Mega Man 2 and went forward. Mega
Man 1 was much harder than Mega Man 2.
To this day, Mega Man 2 was a tough game, but not super hard. But yeah.
Number 6, Mike Tyson's Punch-Out!
Yeah, I never played that either, but
what the fuck is wrong with you?
I was not drawn toward sports games in general. Oh
my God. Me either, but this was special. You played it because it was just fun. And I never got to Mike Tyson. Yeah. Holy shit.
John Mark, can you ironically mute your round of Mike Tyson Punch out there?
Yeah. He just laughs and just keeps playing.
You play?
Number 5, Castlevania. I can't remember. Did somebody get that? The original
John
Castlevania?
Mark did.
Yeah, I think so.
One of them did,
yeah. Number 4 was Super Ghouls and Ghosts, which was got.
Oh, yeah.
Number 3 was Ghosts and Goblins, which was got. Number 2 was Battletoads, which I believe Ronster got.
What is number 1?
Number 1, hands down. I 100%
we all take one last guess?
Sure, take one.
Now
last
that we know
stab,
what's
guys.
Already taken, give us. Tell us this: is it SNES or NES?
It's NES.
No, John Mark. Did John Mark guess Super Mario Brothers?
He did.
All right. John Mark, unmute.
I did, and it didn't work.
Okay, so let's just stick with the original order. So Lyle, one last shot for number 1. What do you think it is? I mean, you already won the game, but
let's. God,
glory.
That's a tough one because the Nintendo I played, right? So, but like when the Nintendo 64 came out, I didn't have anything to do with it because I was already on the PlayStation. So
I never liked the graphics of the N64. It just didn't appeal to me.
If I were to guess, God dang, I had one, but then I lost it.
I'm having a hard time This is my idea to give one last guess, and I don't have one in the
Fucker.
There was a game. Oh God, what was it called? Oh, yeah, you know, it's probably not on there, but it was a part of. It was a game. It was it was a side scroller, and I thought it was fairly tough, and I had a really hard time. And I don't think I ever beat it. And it was called Rhaegar.
Rhaegar was great.
Right?
Top down view
Rhaegar.
actually. In that. Yeah, Rhaegar was great. Not the game, but man, I never beat that either. That and Karnov.
That's another one that just goes on and on. Karnov I beat, and that was a hard fucking game.
Yeah.
I beat the arcade version, which is even harder.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. That takes us up to, I think it's John Mark's turn to throw one out if you got one.
Bonus for number one.
Okay, the one thing I can think of that I haven't said, Gradius.
That's a great guess, but it's not it. I love that game. Oh,
Yeah.
Remember when you get the two little fucking floaty orbs that shoot with
Fuck
you?
yeah.
Ronster?
I'm going to guess a game that I tried and even owning it on my Crackman machine, and I can continue and cheat all I want. I still have no idea where the game goes. Blaster Master.
No, that's a good guess too. That's a fuck. I never beat that. But the number one game on this list was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the NES game. Not the arcade game, the NES game that made no fucking sense and was so fucking hard. Do you remember the underwater levels trying to disarm those bombs?
Oh, and there were like electric eels, or
Yes.
the walls were electric or something.
Yes, like the electric vines in the
But
water.
you could switch between each turtle.
Turtles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a fun game,
And then
but it was hard.
It was fun, but it was impossible to beat. Like, it was the most difficult game I've ever played, and I played a lot of that fucking game.
All right. So you think that's fair?
Hey, well, good job, guys. Good list. That was fun.
Yeah, that was fun. And I'm surprised how wrong I am, but I still think that some of these are bullshit.
Well, I think Ranker works as voted by the people.
I can't believe
Right? They like up and down.
I think pop culture is feeding into this to some degree. Like some of those games have come to be like how many people even played Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde? But the angry video game nerd made it famous for being like one of the hardest, most stupid games of all time. I think a lot of those people might have been voting.
Yeah, our devs were sitting around talking about it.
And if you only had 3 video games, we had Pac-Man, we had E.T., and Combat. You got real good at them, son. I remember E.T. I could play E.T. in 5 minutes, and I'd have E.T. back in the spaceship. And then it just reset. It's just the same thing over and over again. Not a hard game at all. Doesn't belong anywhere on that fucking top 50 list, that's for sure. Anywho. Now, Raiders of the Lost Ark, the Atari version, absolutely. Because you had to use 2 controls for that. Player 1 was the control. You went around whipping people and finding shit. Controller 2 was your selection, to select through all the different items that you had to drop in very, very meaningless and random spots. Way fucking harder than E.T. Fucking damn shit. Fucking Ranker.
We're not all savants like you, Ron, okay?
I'm going to call Ranker. No, E.T. savant. Well, tune in next week. We will certainly be talking about 9/11. And if you want to support the show, patreon.com/Tales from the Space Pod. And do forgive us for our little hiatus. We will be back in the swing of things now that I'm not moving out my life. And things will slow down. No holidays. I don't really understand why we put Thanksgiving, or really Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's all back to back to back to back. It's like, why do we do that?
Why do we do that? It's terrible.
much.
That's why they call it the holidays.
It's fucking too much, man. Anyway, Godspeed. I did say Godspeed.
Godspeed.
Godspleen.
It's like Godspleen open up for Pantera before they started getting all racist and weird. Listened to that band for 20 years before I knew what their logo said.
Holy shit.
Black Death. All right. Hey, guys.
Night, guys.
Have a good night.
Adieu.
have like a code word though, like the fucking orangutan or something?
Well, pounding on the wall and screaming for help, I think, was his code word.